In episode number 6, we are going to take care of scroll able function so that we can switch dynamically between our weapons in game. So the first thing that you need to do is to head over to the main camera, right click on it, and then create empty, like so. And then make sure to change the values in X, Y, and Z to the values that I have added here already to my gun hold. So 0.9 for an X, minus 0.23 for Y, and then 0.58 for Z. And then you can also rename your game object to gun hold. Okay, like so. And I will come back to this in just a moment why we need to do that. And then let me quickly drag and drop the game window back here to my tab bar, and then the first thing we need to do is create a new script, and we can actually attach that to the player. And so let me close here quickly everything. Let's create a new script and let's call it scroll weapon. We could add the function that we will add to the scroll weapon script also to the shooting script. That's totally fine, but I just want to create a separate script to make this a little bit more organized because our shooting script is getting really big, right? If you look at that, there's quite a lot of code going on already, and since this is a tutorial where I explain things, I think it's better to separate things a little bit. So inside the scroll weapon, what we will do is do we actually need to add here something? Yeah, we want to access the shooting script, right? So I would say serialized field, so actually just public, no, we can use serialized field. And then we can say shooting and then shoot script. Okay, and then we will initialize this here quickly. So shoot script equals to get component and then shooting. Alright, so with that we grab the shooting script, and then inside the shooting script, I think I already changed that. Make sure to change the gun index from serialized field to public in gun index, like so, okay? And with that we have then access to that. So inside update, what we can say is here we can make an if statement and say, hey, if input get access mouse, I think it's called mouse wheel. Let's just debug log that. We are scrolling. I hope I spelled it correctly. Let's just find out quickly. So normally, if I did everything right, we should be able to get the console log whenever we scroll the mouse wheel. And yeah, the axis is not mapped. Where can we actually see the selection? Input manager axis. Alright, so how is this called? Mouse scroll wheel. Okay, so mouse scroll wheel. Okay, so with that, whenever that is greater than 0, we should get back the debug log that we are scrolling. Okay, so let's confirm that it's working. I will scroll up and we get we are scrolling. Alright, and when I scroll down, you see we get nothing back. That's because we just say, hey, if it's greater than 0. So we need to reverse this logic here and simply say, hey, if it's smaller than 0, we are also scrolling. And so with that, when I console log that now or debug log that now, we should get the debug log message back for both directions. So I scroll up, We're confirmed that this is working, and if I scroll down, we also should get back now a debug log, which is the case. So this works. Let's save the project. And then what I want to do is I want to access the shooting gun index and increase it whenever we scroll up, or decrease it whenever we scroll down. So I would just leave here the debug log, and then I would say shoot script gun index plus plus, and here I would just copy that and say minus minus. Now, obviously we need to limit that, because if we scroll now continuously up, we will get an error message that we are out of the range because of our array that uses the gun index, but we will fix this in just a moment. For now, let's just open up the shooting script, and now normally we should increase or decrease the gun index whenever we scroll up or scroll down. So I will scroll up and it went up to 2, and if I scroll down it goes back to 1. If I scroll down to 0, everything's working. Alright, so since our gun index is connected to our array, so we inject the gun index here everywhere, right? We are using that. We can now dynamically load the data. But in order to be able to do that, we need to create a separate method, because right now we're just initializing this here in the start function, and this is only called whenever we press play, okay? It's even mentioned here. So start is called before the first frame update, okay? So this is only called once, and therefore it's not dynamic. So we need to create a new function, and it needs to be a public one that we can access. And we'll call this set weapon. And here we want to add an int for the index that we will inject from our other script. And then I can basically grab here all of the logic that we have, actually everything except for the cursor, I guess, and we can paste it in. And we can actually rename that to gun index, so we don't have to. I think this will work. So with that, we don't need to. With that we don't need to rename everything inside here. If not, we can still change it. Okay, so now we're basically dynamically rendering the weapon. Okay, this should actually already work. All we have to do is to go to scroll weapon, and then here we need to inject that. So I would say shoot script and then set weapon, and here I would just set the shoot script gun index. And the more I think about that, I think it's actually a good practice to rename that. I think otherwise C# could get, or Unity could get confused. So in this case, for some reason my mouse is not working. Okay, seems like I have to do this now with my keyboard. Not quite sure what's going on with my mouse because I cannot move it. So let's rename this here quickly everywhere to index. And I simply do that because we already declared the index at the top, and I'm not quite sure if this will lead to bugs if we would just leave it as gun index. I assume that it could cause some bugs. That's why I'm just using index here. So with that we are separating that. Okay, and now it seems like I can still not move my mouse, which is a little bit bad, I would say. Okay, that's because I was still in play mode. Would be pretty bad if I couldn't move my mouse anymore here while I'm recording a tutorial. So let's save everything just in case I get here any other weird issues. So when I hit now play, the magazine and all the other things should not change dynamically whenever we scroll the mouse wheel. So if I scroll up, you see we get now the error that we are out of the range. That's because we have only 2 elements. So the element 2 doesn't exist yet because we literally just have 2 guns inside our weapon database. But if I scroll down, you see we get now the ammo from of 64. And if I scroll down one more time, let's actually see the ammo. Okay, seems like it's not working. So let's retry this one more time. So we just scroll down and still then took the ammo. Let's see, weapon database. I don't think we need to do this here inside the set weapon method, because we already have declared that here at the top. And then let's see what we're doing wrong. Gun mesh, do that. Set index, public gun index. And yeah, we have to call this here as well, of course, right? When we decrease the weapon. Now it should work. So when I decrease the weapon, it should now take the, when I decrease the gun index, it should take the ammo from the first element, and our ammo should be at 128. And there we go. We have now the ammo of 128, and it took all the values of our first weapon. But if I scroll up to 1, we have now the ammo of 64 and a magazine of 32. And as you can see, we are spawning now every time we scroll up or down a new weapon. Okay, and if we go here to our scene, this looks really messy, right? So the problem is that we need to create a system that takes care of that problem, so that we delete the previous gun and spawn a new gun whenever we scroll the mouse wheel. So let's go back here to shooting, and then I will first off create here a new serialized fields, and I will say game object and then gun game mesh. Okay, and then whenever we have a new gun mesh, okay, so whenever we have initialized a gun mesh, I would say gun game mesh equals to gun mesh. And here at the top, what we can say before we initialize that, we can say, hey, if we have a gun mesh, okay, which is obviously not the case when we start the game, but if we have one, if it's not nil, well, then simply destroy it. Okay, and we can basically just copy that and paste it here in as well. So just before we initialize the gun mesh, we want to destroy it, and make sure to add the gun mesh equals to gun mesh also down here inside the set weapon function. Okay, and now we can already try out if this works. So normally whenever we spawn a new weapon, so in this case when we hit play, we should have now inside our game gun mesh here an object, which is the case. And if I scroll now down, you see we no longer get this issue that we have like two weapons inside our system here, okay? And in fact, if I go here to our scene, you see we have now only one object. So this already confirms that the function is working. So you can see that actually now here inside the scene. So if I scroll down, you see it replaced it with the first gun. If I scroll up, it replaced it with the second gun, and it always removes the previous mesh, which is exactly what we want. However, the spawning is currently a little bit off, so we need to adjust that. And what I want to do is, I said in the beginning of this episode that you should create a new game object under the main camera and set these values here to these here, and this will then replace the and this will be our new gun holder then. Okay, so we will, instead of using the main camera, we will use the gun holder to initialize or instantiate the gun mesh. Okay, so instead of saying here inside start, instead of saying main transform main cam transform position, I want to change that to gun hold. And of course we have to create here quickly serialize fields transform and gun hold, and then let's just drag and drop the gun hold to our script. So we just drag and drop that. Let's wait a minute. Seems like our script is not compiling. Okay, that's because I need to undo this here quickly. Main cam transform position, and again serialize field transform gun hold. Okay, Unity is compiling, which is a good sign. And then let's click on player and just drag and drop the gun hold, and make sure the gun hold is a child of the main camera. Then we can drag and drop that here into the transform like so. Then we have access to that. So here, instead of saying main cam transform position, I will remove that and we'll say gun hold dot position. Okay, so we want to spawn that at gun hold position, and when we hit play, you will see that it already will work, at least when we start the game, because we also need to add the logic to our set weapon function in order to make this work when we scroll. So as you can see, our weapon is now spawning just like it did before. But if I like rotate the character and scroll the mouse wheel, you see we still have the same error, and that's because we have to add the logic here. So I will copy that and paste it here inside our set weapon function like so. And then here at start, make also sure to change the parent from main cam transform to gun hold. Okay, and we want to do the same down here like so. And now this already works. Okay, so whenever we hit now play and change the gun, it will be always instantiated at the gun hold position. So when I rotate now the character, you see it kind of works, right? It looks now a little bit different from what we had before. However, it's still a little bit off. As you can see, sometimes our gun is like instantiated in a really weird position, okay, which just makes too much sense. So we need to change that. So why is that so? So here at the top we say quaternion identity, and this takes just the original rotation from our prefab that we have from our gun game mesh. But that's okay when we use the start function, since we don't use or rotate our character. But once we rotate our character, the rotation of the gun hold also changes, and that's why we can no longer use quaternion identity. We have to change that. So instead, what I would say here is I would say quaternion Euler, and then we will simply use the gun holds Euler angles X, and then gun holds Euler angles Y, and then gun hold Euler angles Z. Okay, so with that we make sure that we always take the local rotation of the gun hold position. So now when I hit play, the rotation should now be always applied also to our gun mesh. So when I rotate now towards the cube and scroll down, you see we get now every time the correct position for our gun mesh, and everything is basically working. We can still shoot, okay, we can still walk around, we can still jump, and yeah, we basically have finished our system. Now there's one thing that I would like to do, and that is to limit the gun index to our length that we have inside our weapon database. So it seems like I think we can access this by simply changing this here to public as well. Should normally work. So I think we can here say shoot script, or make another statement, say shoot script weapons database I think we can call it, need to use guns. And here we can say yeah, we need to compare this. So if the shoot script gun index is not smaller than the count, we should be able to do that. Smaller or is equal to the count. So if that's the case, we should be able to scroll up. So in this case, we should be only able to scroll up to 1. So let's try this out quickly. So when I scroll up, it shouldn't work anymore, but we can still scroll up. So seems like gun index, guns count. Well, I guess for now we just manually change this here. So if it's I guess we have to say if it's smaller than 2, we should be able to increase it. Alright, so I had to pause the video here and to find out how to fix the issue. So what we have to do, the main idea, the first main idea was actually not wrong, but my statement was not right. So we have to use equals to. Okay, so shoot script gun index. So if that is equal to the shoot script weapons database guns count. So if that's true, so if we reached, and actually we have to add here also -1. So if we reached the first element, we just want to return do nothing. But if we haven't reached the maximum amount, we want to use the same logic. And now back to our Unity editor. When I hit now press play here and try to increase it over the gun index of 1, it will no longer work. Okay, so I scroll up and as you can see it stays at 1. We no longer get the issue that we are out of the range. But if I scroll down where we haven't implemented this function yet, you see it still works and we still get the out of range index out of range error. So obviously we have to simply copy that and paste it here in. Okay, and then instead of saying well, here we can simply say if it reached 0, because 0 is the lowest number that we can reach. So if we have reached 0, just return. Otherwise, make sure to change this to -, again, decrease the value. And so with that, we should be now ready to go and should have fixed this issue. So now this should be always dynamically based on how many items we have. So if I scroll down, I can no longer go further than 0, and the same for 1. Okay, but everything else is still working. So yeah, we have basically finished our weapon system. To confirm this is working, as always, you can create an element, and here we simply create quickly a new gun, and we'll change here maybe the shoot time to 0.5, and then let's also change the audio to Papu or whatever. Let's drag and drop that in. Then we change the ammo to 220, and now when we hit play, we should be able now to reach the gun index of 2, even though we haven't changed anything inside our code. So this should all be dynamic now. And there we go. We automatically were able to go further than just to the gun index 1. That's because we have added another gun. And as you can see, it also took the values of our new create gun. And also the shoot timer. And yeah, this is now all dynamic. So we can now add literally thousands of new guns, and they will be always added to our shooting script whenever we scroll the mouse wheel. Okay, so I will, as always, wrap up here this episode to make it not too long. We have basically accomplished everything we wanted to do. The only thing that is now missing is kind of like health system, so that we can actually shoot at things, right? Because right now we can, for example, shoot at the cube, but nothing really happens. So it would be nice to have maybe help system or something like that. But before we actually implement this, what would actually make even more sense than a help system right now is kind of like a UI, a user interface. Yeah, because we always have to look at our Unity editor, right? We have to click on the player so that we can see our stats. And that's obviously not something you want in a first-person shooter, right? It would be nice to have maybe the ammo displayed here at the right corner, or maybe the health here at the bottom left. So yeah, I guess this is actually the next step and something for the next episode. And once we have added a UI system, I think the last step is then to add a kind of like a health and damage system, so that we can deal damage to objects. And with that, we are pretty much finished creating a first-person controller, a first-person shooter actually, with a first-person controller, complete from scratch. And I hope you guys enjoyed so far. Was quite a lot of things we have to take care of, but everything's working. And yeah, as always, thanks for watching, and see you maybe next time. Bye.